My office rival constantly took long breaks and ignored deadlines, smirking, "They'll never fire me. I'm too charming." When I got a raise instead of him, he stormed into the CEO's office, screaming, "I deserve that raise more." His confidence shattered when the CEO replied, "Actually, you deserve a performance review and a meeting with HR." I work at a marketing firm in Chicago. It's a decent job that pays the bills. For the past couple of years, I've shared an office with a guy named Brad. Brad thinks charm can replace hard work. He strolls into the office late, takes extended coffee breaks, and often misses deadlines. Whenever someone points out his lack of commitment, he grins and says, "They'll never fire me. I'm too charming." It's frustrating. While the rest of us pull late nights to meet project deadlines, Brad is out schmoozing clients or chatting up the receptionist. But the tipping point comes during our annual performance reviews. I've been working tirelessly on a major campaign for a high-profile client. The project is a success, and I'm hopeful for a raise. Brad, on the other hand, has contributed little to nothing. Yet, he's confident he'll be rewarded, simply because he believes he's indispensable. When the day arrives, I'm called into the CEO's office. To my relief and joy, I'm offered a raise. It feels like all my hard work has finally been recognized. But the moment is short-lived. As I exit the office, I see Brad storming down the hallway, his face red with anger. He barges into the CEO's office without knocking. Curious, I linger by the door, listening. "I deserve that raise more," Brad shouts. "I've been here longer, and everyone loves me." There's a pause before the CEO responds, "Actually, Brad, what you deserve is a performance review and a meeting with HR." The aftermath is swift. Brad's repeated negligence has finally caught up with him. The HR meeting leads to a formal warning, and he's put on probation. His confidence shattered, Brad becomes a shadow of his former self. Eventually, he leaves the company, unable to cope with the reality that charm can't cover incompetence. As for me, I continue to work hard, knowing that in the end, dedication and integrity always win out. After Brad stormed out of the CEO's office that day, the whole floor buzzed like a kicked beehive. People tried to act normal, but you could feel the tension hanging in the air. Brad didn't say a word to anyone for the rest of the day. Just sat there at his desk, jaw tight, typing random stuff while glaring at his screen. The next few weeks were weird. HR officially put him on a 90-day performance review. He showed up on time, started dressing sharper, and even stayed late a couple of nights. At first, I thought maybe he finally got the message. But it didn't take long for the old Brad to creep back. He started small. Little comments slipped into conversation. "Oh, nice slide deck. Too bad it's a little dry." Stuff like that. Then he began spreading rumors. One afternoon, I overheard him talking to another coworker, saying I only got the raise because I sucked up to the CEO and that some people have to use charm, others just use desperation. At first, I ignored it. I figured if I kept doing my work, the truth would hold up. But then I noticed things going missing, small things at first. My favorite pen. Sticky notes. A USB drive. Then it escalated. He accidentally deleted the final version of my presentation the day before a big client pitch. Said he was cleaning up the shared drive and didn't realize what it was. I had backups, thank God, but I knew what he was doing. This wasn't clumsiness, it was sabotage. I went to HR, but all they did was document the incidents. They said they needed a pattern. So I started tracking everything. Dates, times, screenshots. I backed up all my files twice. I even started recording conversations at my desk, just in case he tried anything bolder. It didn't take long before he slipped up. One morning, I caught him standing over my desk before I got in. Our company uses ID badge scanners to get into the building and log computer access. I checked the logs. He was in an hour earlier than usual. My desk drawer was slightly open. The folder I kept locked up was sitting just a little too far to the left. I checked my PC. Someone had tried to access my work email. There was a failed login at 6:14 a.m. That was the final straw. I compiled everything. Timestamps, video footage from the hallway cam. I had to go through facilities for that, the login logs, and a full breakdown of the sabotage incidents. I dropped it all in a shared folder labeled Confidential for HR and CO only. Then I waited. But instead of Brad getting pulled into HR, something worse happened. The CEO called an all-hands meeting the next morning. Said there were concerns about internal mistrust and unauthorized data access. He didn't name names, but his eyes scanned the room, and for a second, they landed right on me. And then Brad. Later that day, my manager asked me to meet with him privately. That's when I found out Brad had filed a complaint against me. Claimed I was the one harassing him. That I was spying, recording conversations without consent, creating a hostile environment. I felt like I got hit with a bag of bricks. Suddenly, I was the one being investigated. And the worst part? HR suspended both of us until they could sort things out. 2 days later, I got a call from a blocked number. I answered, and it was Brad. "You shouldn't have messed with me," he said, calm and cold. "You think you're smart? This isn't over." I sat there in silence, heart pounding. This guy was willing to burn the whole building down if it meant he'd look like the victim. So I went back through everything, rechecked the footage, dug deeper. And then I found something. Something Brad didn't realize was on a synced folder. A voice memo. His own recording. Talking to someone after deleting my files. Bragging about how he was going to get that little snitch fired and make sure nobody trusts him again. It wasn't just mean, it was evidence. Real, unfiltered, solid. I made a copy. I made 5 copies. I uploaded one to my cloud, one to my backup, and burned one onto a flash drive. The HR meeting was coming up in 2 days. And I was going to walk in with a smoking gun. The night before the HR meeting, I couldn't sleep. I laid there staring at the ceiling, going over everything in my head. What if the recording wasn't enough? What if they decided I was just as much trouble as Brad? Offices hate conflict. Sometimes they'd rather cut both ends of the rope instead of figuring out who's fraying it. When I got to the building that morning, something felt off. People stared more than usual. Not the usual head nods or polite smiles. It was tighter, like they knew something I didn't. Then I saw it. An email had gone out at 7:13 a.m. from my work account. Subject, confession. I opened it and my stomach dropped. The message read like a full admission of guilt, saying I had targeted Brad, manipulated files, tried to get him fired out of jealousy. It was sent to the CEO, HR, my manager, and the entire senior team. Even the interns got it. I hadn't sent it. I was asleep when that email went out. I rushed to IT. The guy behind the desk gave me a blank look when I explained. He opened my access logs and nodded slowly. "Yeah, your account logged in at 6:58 a.m. from the 9th floor. Nobody works on the 9th floor. It's under renovation, has been for months." The security logs showed the elevator going up at 6:55 a.m. with one badge swipe. Brad's badge. He had used a dummy workstation upstairs to frame me. That was his final move. Try to bury me completely. But here's the part he didn't know. That morning, the building's IT contractor was installing new motion-triggered cameras on the 9th floor. Not active yet, just test recordings to verify the angles. The timestamp matched perfectly. There was clear footage of Brad at the terminal, typing, printing something, then swiping his badge on the way down. I called the IT contractor myself. Posed as someone from facilities, said we needed to verify test cam coverage for floor 9. The guy sent me a raw export file, probably thought he was helping someone higher up. I didn't care. I had it. By the time I walked into the HR meeting, I was running on fumes and pure adrenaline. They looked tired. HR, my manager, the CEO. A printed copy of the fake confession email sat in front of them like evidence at a trial. I slid the flash drive across the table. "What's this?" HR asked. "Everything," I said. "The login logs, elevator badge data, synced folders, and that voice memo. Also, a little bonus from the 9th floor." They looked confused until I added motion cams. Footage of Brad logging into my account. 6:58 a.m. today. They plugged it in. Watched it. Nobody said a word for a full minute. The CEO was the first to speak. Get IT in here. Now, that's when it unraveled completely. But the fallout didn't hit immediately. I was asked to stay home, again, while they handled the internal investigation. A nicer word for a storm they clearly weren't ready for. 3 days later, the HR head called me directly. She didn't sound formal. She sounded tired. We've reviewed the materials. Everything. You're cleared of all wrongdoing. We'll be handling Brad's situation internally. I asked if I'd be returning to my team. She hesitated. Then said, there's been damage. It may be best if we discuss a transfer. A transfer? I worked my ass off. I followed every rule, documented everything, proved my innocence, and now I had to move? But it got worse. An anonymous Reddit thread popped up titled, Toxic Coworkers in Corporate America, When Going Too Far Backfires. Guess who it was about? Me. They didn't use my name, but the details were too specific. Client campaigns, Chicago, even references to overzealous note-takers. It was written like a diary of a poor soul targeted by a petty office spy. And the comments full of sympathy. Ugh, hate coworkers like that. Sounds like someone was threatened by your charm. Classic jealous energy. I read every single one. Brad wasn't just trying to destroy me at work. He was trying to ruin my reputation online. But here's the thing. I wasn't just going to let it slide. Because I knew something about Brad too. And he had secrets even HR didn't know about. Let's just say I wasn't the first person he pulled this kind of stunt on. I started digging. Quietly. I reached out to a few people who used to work at the company before I joined. I had noticed a pattern. Every time Brad worked closely with someone, they ended up either quitting or being transferred after some drama. One guy, Nate, had left suddenly about a year before I started. Nobody really talked about it. I found him on LinkedIn and sent a message. To my surprise, he replied the same day. We agreed to talk over the phone. Nate told me everything. Brad had sabotaged him too. Deleted campaign files, spread rumors, even made up stories about Nate being unstable and violent. Nate went to HR, but Brad had already planted enough lies that when it came down to it, HR just pushed Nate out. Said it was for team cohesion. He ended up leaving quietly, embarrassed and exhausted. Nate never got justice. He was just glad to be done with the place. But I wasn't. I compiled everything. Nate's statements, emails from old coworkers who'd been on the edge, even one from a woman in accounting who said Brad used to flirt with her until she asked him to stop, and then suddenly her workload doubled overnight. I packaged it all up into a file. I titled it Pattern of Misconduct, Brad M. I didn't send it to HR. I sent it to the board of directors. I sent it to every top-level executive above the CEO. And then I sent it to a reporter who'd written about corporate abuse and whistleblower retaliation. That was a Friday. By Monday, everything exploded. An emergency board meeting was called. HR was blindsided. The CEO tried to stay calm, but once the media started asking questions, it was over. Brad was terminated that day. The CEO resigned 2 weeks later to focus on personal priorities. HR's director was let go after an internal audit showed how many complaints had been resolved quietly, without proper follow-up. But here's where I made my mistake. I thought I would feel vindicated. Instead, I became that person. People avoided me in the office. They whispered, "Don't cross them, they'll take you down." Like I was dangerous. Like doing the right thing made me radioactive. When they offered me the transfer again, I declined. I handed in my resignation instead. I walked out of that office with my head high, but with a pit in my stomach. I had exposed a snake. But I also scorched the whole nest. I got a job at a smaller firm. Different city. Different people. I'm quieter now. More guarded. But sometimes, late at night, I still replay that call. Brad's voice, "You shouldn't have messed with me." He was wrong. He messed with me. And I finished it.